Create a video for YouTube about welcome to the channel. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and if you enjoy the video, hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Today we'll dive into a shocking true story about one of the most infamous serial killers in history, Ted Bundy. This story is long and complex, so let's go through it step by step. Ted Bundy was not an ordinary criminal. He appeared to the public as handsome, charming, and intelligent traits that made him a master of disguise. But behind that facade was a cold and calculated pattern of violence that spread across several states in the 1970s, leaving permanent scars on victims' families and communities. Early life and background. Theodore Robert Bundy was born in the mid-20th century and grew up in complicated family and social circumstances. During his childhood, he showed signs of social isolation and struggled with his identity and self-image. At school and later in university, he seemed like a normal young man who could form casual relationships, yet deep inside he carried conflicting emotions and tendencies toward isolation. After graduating, he worked in temporary jobs and sometimes participated in volunteer activities which helped him earn people's trust. Later, criminologists and psychologists explained that several factors, upbringing, personal experiences, and possible disorders, may have shaped his violent behavior, although no single clear cause explains his transformation. Becoming a killer. Becoming a serial killer doesn't happen overnight. In Bundy's case, his behavior escalated gradually. Early deviant behaviors developed into recurring violent acts. Over time, he built strategies of control and manipulation, learning how to choose his victims and when to strike. His social skills, charm, good looks, and ability to act were not positive traits but tools he used to carry out his crimes. This contrast between his outward appearance and inner reality made discovering his true nature much harder. Victims and nature of the crimes. Bundy is linked to a series of kidnappings, sexual assaults, and murders of young women in the mid-1970s. His crimes extended across multiple states. Official numbers confirm dozens of victims, but some experts believe the real count may be higher. His crimes usually followed a pattern, luring the victim into a secluded location, committing assault, then killing, often by strangulation or severe blunt force. In many cases, he disposed of the bodies in remote areas, making it difficult for investigators to connect the cases at first. Methods of luring victims. Bundy used repeated tricks, pretending to be injured, asking for help, impersonating authority figures, or requesting assistance with simple tasks like loading items into his car. At first glance, these approaches seemed innocent. His polite and trustworthy appearance made victims let their guard down. Once trust was gained, he quickly seized control, abducting the victim and taking her to a remote place before committing his crimes. He then worked to hide evidence and bodies, delaying investigations and obscuring the pattern for a time. 5 additional victims. Jorgen Hawkins, 18 years old, disappeared from an alley behind her sorority house at the University of Washington after leaving a gathering. Investigators believe Bundy approached or lured her there. Year 1974. Janice Ann Ott, 23 years old, was on a picnic near a lake with a friend when a man approached offering help or suggesting a boat ride. She agreed and left with him. Year 1974. Denise Marie Nasland, 19 years old, was at the same lake picnic as Janice. She left briefly and never returned. Investigators linked her disappearance to Ott's. Year 1974. Margaret Elizabeth Bowman, 21 years old, was asleep in her Florida sorority house when the attacker broke in through a faulty back door and assaulted residents. Bowman was killed in the attack. Year 1978. Kimberly Diane Leach, 12 years old, abducted near her school in a small Florida town. Later evidence tied Bundy to her murder. Year 1978. Police investigations and connecting the crimes. At first, the spread of crimes across several states slowed coordination between investigations. Each state had its own records and procedures, but as witness accounts and physical evidence accumulated, investigators noticed recurring patterns, similar methods of luring, kidnapping, and disposing of bodies. Eventually, cross-state cooperation grew stronger, and similarities in suspect descriptions and crime scenes suggested a single offender. Media pressure also pushed authorities to strengthen their efforts, and survivors' testimonies played a key role in shaping the investigation. Arrests, escapes, and final capture. Bundy was arrested multiple times, and on 2 occasions he managed to escape custody. which drew massive media attention and made his case a national priority. His escapes forced authorities to intensify cooperation across states. He was finally captured for good after evidence and witness testimonies directly tied him to specific crimes. During his trial, he appeared frequently in the media and made contradictory statements, but he was prosecuted and convicted in several cases. Trials, convictions, and execution. Bundy's trials were heavily covered by the press, with prosecutors presenting strong evidence and testimonies. He was convicted of several murders and sentenced to severe punishments. After exhausting all appeals, his death sentence was carried out in the late 1980s. These trials sparked discussions about sharing information across state lines and how the justice system handles serial killers. Social and psychological impact. Bundy's case left deep wounds for victims' families and affected entire communities. It raised public awareness about personal safety and the importance of cooperation between law enforcement agencies. In criminal psychology, Bundy's story highlighted how outward charm can conceal dangerous traits and how recurring behavioral patterns can help investigators identify serial offenders earlier. Victim list. When telling Bundy's story, it's important to remember the victims as real people. Notable victims: Linda Ann Healy, 21, disappeared from her apartment in 1974. Donna Gail Manson, 19, vanished near Evergreen State College in 1974. Susan Elaine Rancourt, 18, disappeared during a study break in 1974. Janice Ann Ott, 23, vanished from a lakeside picnic in 1974. Denise Marie Neesland, 19, disappeared from the same picnic in 1974. Carol Duranch, 18, survived an attempted abduction and gave key testimony. Karen Campbell, 23, abducted and murdered during Bundy's spree. Deborah Kent, 17, disappeared near a school auditorium, later linked to Bundy. Ted Bundy's story is dark and complex, carrying with it the names of countless victims and grieving families. Justice was eventually served, but the case remains a lesson in vigilance, law enforcement cooperation, and understanding criminal psychology. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video with your friends. Write in the comments which case or figure you'd like us to cover in the next video,